Okay, so Be'ezras Hashem, we're continuing with our weekly series of Shirim on the Torah of recovery with the light revealed, where we try and illuminate the path of recovery with the light of the Torah and bring the vessels of recovery into the light of the Torah as well, so that both can mutually benefit from one another, so that the tzaddik can become a Baal Tshuva and the Baal Tshuva can become a tzaddik. On Sos Chanukah, we encounter a very simple problem. It is said to be the climax, the apex, the highest level of Hanukkah imaginable, the highest level of spiritual consciousness. But at the same point, it's referred to in a profoundly anticlimactic way by the word Zos. Zos means this. This implies the externality and the shape of whatever it is that's in front of me. This item, this feeling, this thought, this time, this place. It is the way that language describes that which is taking place externally and gives shape to the scene itself. It doesn't describe the inner feelings. It doesn't describe the subjective grasp of what's going on. It doesn't imply depth. It doesn't imply the personal narrative. It simply implies that which is the equal level of that which a person experiences, just like any other person, by dint of the fact that we're human beings who are conscious creatures who encounter the world through our consciousness as well as our five senses and our haptic sense of touch. The phenomenological lens through which the human being experiences phenomenon in this world, that's the external shape of things. Zos, this is what it is. When a person encounters a situation without giving any credence to the depth of what's going on, without trying to apply meaning or value to it, they say, this is what's happening. The external nature of things that very often appears to operate like a dreidel that's spinning out of control, because on the external level of things, on the pshat level, on that which appears, that which is grasped, that which congeals itself in the frame of being cognitizable through consciousness, that's what is. It just is the edge of what reveals itself. And the human being encounters that through vision, through hearing, through speech, through the haptic sense of touch, through the encounter with others, through eating, through spirituality, through all of the different frameworks of mind, through any type of experience. The thisness of the world is what it means to be a human being, where the rubber hits the road and a person actually experiences the experience of experience itself. Now, externally viewed, this represents the baseline level. It represents the pshat. This is the starting point of all things, the ground level where I can feel something, where I'm aware of the width or the length or the fact that things take space and time takes time, and all of the various definitive elements of what it means to be a human being in this world. The phenomenological space in which I, as a human being, this composite thing of consciousness, which I identify as a soul, and physical nature, which I identify as a body, and the combination between the two of them in the world, as a creature in the world, is this. This is the thisness of experience. The human being is a zeh, and it's encountering a perpetual sense of zeh, this. That's what zos means. Zos is the feminine quality of zeh. It's the feminine form of thisness, that which is already congealed, that which has already revealed itself to be that which it is, and ultimately is seemingly unchanging in its nature. Now, it's really surprising to describe that baseline experience where the self encounters the outside world and that very liminal space of sensual encounter with outside reality where I process things as human being, what we would identify as the most ordinary elements of what it means to be alive. It's very surprising to identify that framework of Zos with the apex of Hanukkah after we've been cultivating hidden light, preparing for this seemingly revelation of a great blinding light that we imagine rests just beneath the surface. We could imagine that that's going to be the climax of Hanukkah, that the breakthrough that comes at the end of the process is going to be something that is so unfathomable to where I find myself right now that I could only anticipate it. And then suddenly I come to the climax of something. I come to the edge of the successful point of accessing the lights of Hanukkah, and I find nothing other than Zos, this, that which is, that which already has been, that which has already been accessible to me, that which is the empty, externalized plainness of reality itself, the pshat itself. How could it be? How could it be that the moment of revelation is something so profoundly ordinary that the only way to describe it is that it is this, it is what it is the ground level of things, it is what appears, it is the appearance of that which appears, it is the invisible becoming visible. the point where the self encounters the outside world, and the edge, where the edge of the world touches the edge of the self, where the nefesh of the nefesh touches the external reality, and there's an interconnectivity between self and world, that plain experience of being a human being, that anticlimactic ordinariness of the ordinary, is in and of itself seen as the apex of human experience. That's the secret, or a secret, of Zos Chanukah. Zos is malchus. Malchus is leisla megarme klum. It has no dimension to itself. She has no dimension to herself. It is internality externalizing itself. It is all of the processes of the Seder HaShtalshalos that have emerged from the loftiest places, slowly but surely going down through that profound process of congealment by way of the Seder of Hashtalshalos, to the degree that it has reached that irreducible point at which spirituality has now condensed itself, to the degree that it can now emerge as something opposite than itself, which is this worldly reality, which is the Pella Elyon of Olam Ha'asiyah, the plainness of reality, the Dir Betachtonim. And at that point, when the sum total of emergence, Kavyachol, is ready in a state of full actualized potential, the movement from potential into a state of actualization is going to be a very plain transference, which is miraculous in its nature. Something appears. Malchus is appearance itself. Malchus doesn't have any identifiable markers to define what it is. It has no width, it has no depth, it has no elongation. It's like David HaMelech, who has no years of his own. It's borrowed. It's borrowed from the inner content that is perpetually expressing itself externally, to the degree that Malchus is the biggest miracle imaginable, that the appearance of anything at all is the biggest miracle imaginable. This is the secret of a Maisa being the Iker. Bezos Yavo Aron El HaKodesh. The secret of Kedusha is being a human being in this world, and the radical secret that, oh my God, I'm conscious of this worldly reality. There's no greater tzimtzum imaginable than that. That a Yid could recognize the notion of God, that I'm separate to a degree from God, that I can contemplate God, is the biggest Pella Elyon, because Nishmas Yisrael is rooted in the highest place, and each Yid is a tzaddik. Each Yid is a tzaddik, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves each Yid, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mispa'er, and he finds the most beautiful, beautiful emergence of Kiddush Hashem from each and every one of us, every moment of our existence, whether we know it or not. Each and every person is revealing the deepest light imaginable, the most wondrous light imaginable. And the secret plainness of it all is that it is because we are human beings in this world. We have agreed, our neshamos have agreed, to come down into this place, into the Dir B'tachtonim, to reveal the light of Hashem here. And there's no greater revelation than that, than the plainness of it all, to the degree that the light of Hanukkah saturates the scene so much, to the degree that I can't even feel it, because to feel it would be outside of it, and to be outside of it would imply that there's a space that is devoid of it. And therefore, the only way to feel that which is ever present and ever saturating is to not feel it. So that's the secret of Malchus, that the Teva itself is the deepest nace imaginable, that the mere nature of nature, that something exists, is the biggest miracle. When a neshama comes to the sense, it's able to recognize Baruch Sha'amar V'haya Ha'olam. Baruch Sha'amar V'haya Ha'olam. Blessed is he who spoke and created the world, the biggest miracle of all miracles. V'haya Ha'olam. The world exists to the degree that it exists, and it's our job to refine what that level of existence means in accordance with the gradations of self-nullification and the retainment of self after self-nullification, in the beautiful, delicate balance of what it means to be a self and nothing at the very same time. And the secret of every tzaddik is ultimately the most humble person imaginable. And that's the burial place that we don't know of Moshe Rabbeinu within ourselves. And to be a human being in this world, to be someone who can touch the ground, to feel something, to experience something, to be able to say Zos, this, Zos Nechamasi, the fact that I am alive right now, the fact that I can have Emunah in this moment, the fact that I can say Baruch Sha'amar V'haya Ha'olam, Roshei Tevos B'shav, equality, equanimity, everything is equal to me, Rabbanu Shalom. This world is the revelation of you in the deepest sense. It's the closest thing that we can understand to Yesh Me'ayin. Every mitzvah, every ounce of investiture into reality itself, of eating, of making a bracha, of feeling the body, of encountering the tzimtzum itself, the lamata me'asar tvachim, the rishus harabim, the left side, all of the things, the negative qualities that seem to animate the mitzvah of Chanukah to imply that it's about coming encounter with life in a real, real way, is revealed on Zos Chanukah to have been part and parcel of the engine that's been driving this radical encounter with existence itself, with Zos. Zos is the secret of Emunah. It has nothing of its own. It's just the natural expression of the interior emerging in an externalized way. Tzadik Yisod Olam, Tzadik be'emunaso yichya. The secret of Emunah is the natural outgrowth of the tzaddik emerging outwards. That once the entire process and setup is entirely done, the next step is that nothing changes, but what is revealed is that which has always been present, but we can now actually experience it in its vastness and its brightness and its very realness, where we can encounter HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch she'amar v'haya ha'olam, yesh olam. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created a world. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created a world. Barashayis, HaKadosh Baruch Hu built the Even HaShasiyah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mitzamtzim himself because he wanted us down here, and he wants us to be Makayim mitzvahs down here, and he wants us to be human down here. And that's the secret of Zois Chanukah. And Bezos Yavo Aaron El HaKodesh. When we grab hold of malchus and the radical secret of that which is right here, right now, and the ability to be a Pashad Yid in this Pashad moment with tamimus and earnestkeit, of being able to say, Hashem, in this world, all I know is that you created it. All I know is that you're the one who sustains it. All I know is that it's a reflection of you somehow, some way, through the miracle of tzimtzum that I'll never come to understand. And when a person can lean into the zostness of it all, they come to find that nothing has changed and everything has changed. And the secret of what we've been talking about from the introduction of the Ramchal to Mesilas Yesharim, where he says, I'm not teaching you anything new in this book. There's nothing new to be taught. Everything that needs to be known is already revealed. Everything that needs to be known is clear and present in front of each and every one of us. Ultimately, it's a result of our habituated grasp of all that we expect, and we come to expect as fundamental, because that's how it's always happened. We come to forget the novelty of it all. We come to forget the chiddush of the fact that we exist and that we're alive, and that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has chosen our neshamos to be alive in this particular point in history, illuminated by this particular potency of the light of Kedusha that exists in our generation through the light of the tzaddikim and the Chedushay Torah and the pathways of recovery and the pathways of growth and the pathways of breaking through to the other side that have never been revealed in history before. Every generation has its own mark, but our generation is the mark of the Tav, which is the externalized jutting out of the letter after all is said and done. That secret of the Dir B'tachtonim, of Malchus, Bazos Yavo, there's nothing more than this. Eretz Yisrael Mamish. This is what Moshe Rabbeinu wanted: the ability to take a deep breath in Eretz Yisrael, in the real land of Eretz Yisrael, in the Afar the Manakula, the ground of it all, the landing of the feet on the ground. This is why the secret is Tchias HaMesim, because to be in the body is the biggest secret in the world, because there's no secret like the body of Nishmas Yisrael. There's no secret like the Etzem Haluz of Nishmas Yisrael, which is that which remains, the secret of the Tzimtzum. Hashem created a place for us to be. And when we allow ourselves to be in that place in the secret of Zos, nothing has to change so radically, but everything changes. And the radical revelation of the apex of Chanukah is the quiet revelation of the Kol Dama Madaka Yishma, that silent revelation that I turn around and the entire world has changed. I close my eyes and I open them again, and the entire world has changed. My relationship with people has grown better. Everything gets better. Od Yoter Tov. There's an amazing teaching that I think has just an amazing psychological import that Rav Tzadok describes, and I think it fits directly into what we're talking about here. It's in notes that Rav Tzadok wrote. Rav Tzadok HaKohen MeLublin was a master of the secret pathways of tshuva, of being a tzaddik and a bal tshuva at the same time, and the secret of recovery and Torah unifying themselves together. And Rav Tzadok's Torah gives us that lens. He's the Kohen Gadol. He's the Torah of Chanukah, the Torah Shebal Peh. And we learn so much from Rav Tzadok. But in these short notes that Rav Tzadok wrote, he writes as follows: that there's a notion that changing place will change how a person reacts in this world. That shinoi makom moel lishnois mazel. A person finds themselves struggling. Let's say a person finds themselves encountering difficulties in life. Life doesn't seem to be going their way. There's a mazel. They feel like a shlamazel. They feel like they don't have the ability to win. They keep losing. And so there's a notion that by shifting one's place, by changing one's place, it's going to be as if a person reinvigorates themselves and they can change their mazel. And in that way, we can shift the circumstances of our lives. So at first glance, it appears to be almost like this metaphysical system where I have to actually go someplace in order to bring about this change. But Rav Tzadok comes along and he softens it and reveals that it's far more of an inner expression and that it can take place also without moving anywhere, at least as I'm reading this. Rav Tzadok says, "Vahosafas avir al yedei siluk mechitzos mikre shinoi makom," and that the addition of air by way of the removal of partitions and walls is referred to as a changing of a place. But the diminishment of air as a result of the adding of walls is not referred to as a changing of place. And Rav Tzadok then gives numerous sources in the Gemara to prove this point. But what does it mean for us? The person wants to change their place because we feel we need to change our mazel. The way that we encounter reality is not working for us. Something is not right. Something is disjointed. And each and every person knows this discomfort at the core of their hearts. It's the secret of the orientation and the awakening that a person has to try and draw down more goodness. If we always felt good and we felt satisfied, then there'd be no more desire. We need the desire to draw down even more light. And that's the secret of that element of dissatisfaction that will always remain within each and every person, no matter where they are. There's no menucha for the tzaddikim. And so a person feels that they need to change their place. And so Rav Tzadok comes along and he says that if you add air into the room by way of taking down partitions, that's called changing a place. Now let's translate this into psychological terms, into the terms of the self, no longer looking at the architecture of space, but looking at the architecture of the self. The adding of air by way of breaking down barriers is considered as if I've shifted a place. If I need to change, if I need to shift my orientation, if I need to open up new pathways for myself in this world of success, new ways of thinking, new narratives to myself, new self-thought structures, new schematic thinking that I need to use to face the day because the previous level is not working anymore. And a person has an awakening enough on the level of Zos Chanukah to realize that, wow, the world is the world, and maybe it's my thinking. Maybe the dark is from my eyes. Maybe the dark is from my eyes instead of thinking that it's the world that's dark. Maybe the dark is coming from me. And so a person feels they want to change it. And what they say is that when I draw down more breath by way of tearing down partitions in my mind, that's enough of a shift. To take a deep breath, to remove the barriers that block me from shifting my thinking. I don't have to go running somewhere. I don't have to go engage in some external behavior in order to bring about an internal change, but rather the internal change is always ready at hand and perpetually at a state of readiness to be encountered because all that is needed is always there. It's just higalena. It just needs to be revealed. We don't have to draw anything else down. Everything is always there. The neshama is an illuminated thing. We kindle lights to reveal the light that always has existed. And all we need to do is take a deeper breath by getting rid of the mechitzos, and then it will be referred to as a shift in place. I don't have to go anywhere. The treasure is underneath my feet. Everything is here. Zos, it's right here. Kacha. Kacha, the way it is the depth of the matter. Keser kol aksarim, the highest expression is kacha. Kacha. That's how it is. Zos, this is what it is. Eretz Yisrael mamash. And Rav Tzadok also helps us here because, okay, so if rethinking something and drawing down more breath and getting rid of the mechitzos of my mind is going to be considered a shift in who I am, to the degree that it's a shift in place that can bring about a renewed sense of consciousness, so then perhaps the other negative side is going to take shape as well. If I can think good and it will be good, then maybe, God forbid, I could think bad and it will be bad. And Chazal always address this question. We're always worried that when Hashem and our tzaddikim reveal to us a very powerful and potent weapon of thought, which enables us to feel good about ourselves, if we take it at face value, we're concerned that the hither side or the opposite is also going to be true and that we'll misuse the idea. And we tend to accentuate our negative traits and assume that we'll misuse an idea rather than have a basic belief in our positive traits and have a confidence that we'll want to use the ideas properly. And so if I come to the place that I realize I could take a deep breath and change my place and I'm where my thoughts are, and that's enough of a shift for me to be able to look at reality differently. So then maybe if I have a negative thought, it will also bring me to a negative place. So Dr. Tzadok aval chisaron avir al yidei hosafos mechitzos loy mekreshina makom. But if I add partitions and I take away air, and maybe that's going to be considered a shift in place, I'm going to think worse about myself. I'm going to feel less good about myself. I'm going to breathe less. That will be also shina makom. No, that's just entrenching ourselves in our original stuckness. And again, I'm reading this Rav Tzadok. The fact that Rav Tzadok chose to write down this chiddush over here is that we have the rishus to be mishtamish in it. Right? We can look at the Neros, but with the light of the tzaddikim is an or that we also have the ability to be mishtamish in because they give us the koach of a clarified imagination. That when we look at our lives and we look about the necessity of changing our circumstances, when it comes to shifting our thoughts for the better, that changes my stuckness and it reveals to me a new opportunity to look at the world. I open my eyes and it's a different world. Bazos yavo aron el kodesh. Bazos. I just have to close my eyes and look again and say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, be with me in this moment, and ask for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ask for my higher power's help to give me the strength to persevere with renewed mochin, with renewed consciousness in this moment. And I have to do that as often as I need to, because as often as I come back to consciousness is as often as I'm re-entering in to the secret of Bazos Yavo Aron El HaKodesh. The Bazos, Zeh Shar Shemayim. Bazos Yavo, the secret of the Shar, of Malchus, of entering into that which is. And it's like the Ramchal says, it's nothing new. It's that which we've always known. It's coming to reveal and remove the dust from our eyes so that we can potentially see how everything has changed. And after Chanukah, everything has changed. After every deep breath, everything has changed. After every glance of the eyes upwards, everything changes. And we look at the world with renewed eyes and we can never grow old because we're perpetually renewing ourselves. Bazos, bazos, nothing has to change because the unchanging apparent nature of thisness is ultimately revealed to be perpetually shifting in its generation and the vitality of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is mashpia lamata tamid, as the Baal Tanya describes in Shar Yichud V'Emunah, in the secret of the Noyam Ha'elyon, the profound light that is perpetually descending into each and every one of our souls, giving each and every one of us every element of connectivity that we need with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the tolerance and the capacity to tolerate reality in the best way imaginable. Each and every person is receiving the baskol mehar chorev at every moment. Each person is receiving nevuah in the pnimius of their heart at every moment. And it's always perpetually descending. It's up to us to renew our vision, to close our eyes and open them again, and to say, bazos, it's this, it's with this, it's this that I'm going to enter in. And that's where change begins. To end, Be'ezras Hashem, Rabbi Nachman says in his 133rd teaching, that Hashem has created such a beautiful world. Hashem has created such a beautiful mountain, a mountain of goodness, a mountain of illumination, something so beautiful, something so accessible, the neshama that's placed within the self that can give it the ability to face this moment with attention and to draw down the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu into this moment. Every neshama has the ability of being Megalik Kvod Shemayim in the Dir B'Tachtonim in a new way that has never been revealed before. Every person is a Moshe, every person is a Mashiach, every person is David Malka Mashiach, every person is Adam Arishon, every person is Baal Shem Tov, every person is the Gra, every person is every element of Nishmas Yisrael when we choose to tap into those elements. Every person has the full capacity to access, but we block it. We block the beauty of the world. We block the orientation to the world that would be beneficial to us by our own hands. And it's a nebuch because we're conditioned to it and we're so convinced that our negative is truly reflective of us and we learn to deny our positive. But if we were able to move, Rabbi Nachman uses the analogy of a coin because capital and grasp and control and power are all of the elements that keep a person stuck, unable to see the vitality of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in each and every moment and to grab hold of bazos, the secret of emunah, the secret of that which is, of derech emunah b'charti, bazos yavo aron el HaKodesh. This is how I'm going to enter in. This itself, this world, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, down here, Baruch Sha'amar v'haya ha'olam, and the secret of being Megalim Malchus and Reshad Lo Yada, of revealing the unknowability of it all, but it's an unknowability that's rooted not in deficiency, but in the grand nature of infinitude that can never possibly be grasped any way other than realizing that I can't grasp anything. And in that place of doubt, I come to a place of satisfaction and the secret of Hasameach Bechelko. But Nebuch, we block ourselves from it. And all it takes is to be ma'avir, just a little bit. We don't have to do so much. We have to close our eyes and open them again to see bazos. The world is different now. The world is different. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you've given me a lev chadash. You've given me a new heart, a heart of flesh that enables me to find you a little bit more in this moment. And Rabbi Nachman says as follows. Rabbi Nachman says in Kuf Lamed Gimel, it's a beautiful, beautiful teaching that each person should read, but I'll just paraphrase in English. That the metaphor is as follows, that a person can hold a small coin in front of their eyes and it could prevent them from seeing the beautiful mountain that rests in front of them. And even though the mountain is thousands and thousands times bigger than that small coin, nevertheless, because the small coin is standing right in front of the person's eyes, it blocks them from being able to see with their eyes to the degree that they come to a place where they can't even see anymore which is bigger and which is smaller. So too, when a person comes into this world and they remain entrenched within their perspectives of this world, and they come to terms with thinking that this is the best that it's going to be, and that this world, this small, tiny world, the small, tiny perception, blocks our eyes from seeing the depth and depth upon depth that exists in each and every moment. And it's the metaphor of the world that blocks the light of the sun. Because in truth, the light of the sun and the light of tzaddikim and the light of Torah and the light of recovery and the light of consciousness and the light of faith is perpetually descending downwards. Except the world blocks our eyes from seeing. Meaning to say that our eyes are placed upon our hands are placed upon our eyes, and it blocks us from seeing the perpetual expression of light that is expressive in this world, in the ability to face this world unflinchingly. But if a person were just simply to remove the partition that were resting in front of their eyes, meaning to say they would move their eyes just a little bit away from this world and they didn't gaze as deeply at this world, but rather they would raise their head upwards and they would look upwards away from this world, then they would merit to see the profound and wondrous light of the Torah of the tzaddikim, of the light of Emunah. Because in truth, the light is thousands and thousand times bigger than the darkness of our eyes. But nevertheless, if our eyes are stuck, we're only going to see the stuckness. But in truth, all we have to do is very simply remove the blockages from our eyes. And we have to understand this very, very deeply. I also heard in the name of the Baal Shem Tov, says Rabbi Nachman. Oy va'avoy, oy va'avoy, oy va'avoy. This world is filled with wondrous lights and wondrous depth upon depth of secrets. But a small hand stands in front of the eyes, and it blocks us from seeing the depth of light. The entire Nes of Chanukah is to come to teach us about the Nisim Gedolim that are taking place in Teva, and how Teva, which is Shem Elokim, is ultimately reflective of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the secret of Shemesh v'Magin Hashem, that Havaya and Elokim, the revelation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's infinite light and goodness through the containment vessels of our concealment and our struggle, is ultimately going to be the yichud necessary to reveal the light of Mashiach, the light of redemption, the light revealed by Ezras Hashem.